Yeah, I'm waiting. Okay. Commissioner O'Donnell is here as well, so I can, if we want a mic check. Yep. Good morning, Commissioner. Can you hear me all right?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Loud and clear.
Very good.
You have to figure out which computer is and then send them over.
Schrodinger's
Testing.
WebEx there.
Exactly.
The
Good morning. Welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's administrative meeting for April the 5th, 2023. Before we get started today, I have some really important and impressive personnel announcements to share today. We have some comings, and we have some goings, and we have some promotions to report. In the goings category, I'd like to recognize the many years of service of Dr. Huilan Lee up in the technical staff division. Is Huilan here today? No, Dr. Lee is not with us. But she will be moving to a bigger and better federal energy regulator in the very near future. She'll be departing state service later on this week. She started back in 2007 and supported various divisions here within her tenure. Most recently, she reported directly to our executive director, Tony Myers. She's helped me on so many issues involving a lot of the platforms that work on reviewing our public utilities in the state. So we'd like to wish Dr. Lee for her valued service and best wishes as she transitions to her new role. Next, I'd like to announce the promotion of Samri Derry, and she joined the commission as a engineer a few years back in 2019, and she will now be our manager of grid reliability and modernization effective today. Is Sam here with us? No, Sam is not here with us, but she's going to be managing and directing the activities of engineers in our engineering division associated with electric reliability, resilience, electrification, and interconnection of renewable energy and grid modernization efforts. So really proud of Sam and for her promotion today. And one more promotion, Dr. Pamela Coates has been named Assistant Director of our Telecommunications Gas and Water Division. She started only relatively recently, so it's a testament that she's been moved up the ranks so quickly. She holds a PhD in economics from the University of Maryland, College Park, and she's just shown great enthusiasm in her work. We had an event just last week that Commissioner Bubar sponsored to recognize Women's History Month, and Dr. Coates was one of our distinguished speakers. So we welcome her, and she is here. I see her in the back. Congratulations, Dr. Coates. And I'll have some more impressive personnel announcements to share at our next administrative meeting. With that, we do have minutes to approve from our last meeting on March the 29th, 2023. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The meeting
Aye.
minutes are approved. Seeing no additional opening statements from my colleagues, including my one colleague, Commissioner O'Donnell in cyberspace, we will move to the consent agenda. Good morning, Madam Secretary.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. There are 2 items on today's consent agenda. The first is VDL Inc., DBA Global Telecom Brokers, with its request for cancellation of its telecommunication authority and tariff. And the second item is from Vox Beam Telecommunications Inc., also a request for cancellation of its authority to provide telecommunication services and tariffs on file.
Seeing no questions from my colleagues, I would move that with respect to item number 1, that we rescind the company's authority to operate in Maryland and cancel its tariff effective April 5th, 2023. And with respect to item number 2, I move that we rescind the company's authority to operate in Maryland and cancel its tariffs, multiple tariffs, effective April 5th, 2023. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motions are approved. Madam Secretary, the administrative agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item on the administrative agenda is from the Potomac Edison Company with its revised electric vehicle charging infrastructure pilot plan.
Thank you. Good morning to our staff, Mr. Delgado.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Eric Delgado on behalf of staff. On February 22, 2023, the Potomac Edison Company, PE, filed tariff revisions to reflect its proposed EV only time of use rate, which would replace PE's electric vehicle credit rider program. In Commission Order number 90036, the Commission approved Potomac Edison's proposal to replace its EV credit rider program with an EV-only time of use rate. PE reviewed the data of over 100,000 charging sessions from customers enrolled in the credit rider program to develop the rate. PE proposes that there be no change to the on and off peak period from the credit rider program. The off-peak hours for the EV TOU rate would be from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., with the remaining hours attributed to on-peak. In response to data request 2.4, the company stated that changing the on and off-peak period would result in more premature transformer failures or the need for additional transformers and substations to meet demand. The on and off-peak rate differential would be plus or minus 2 cents of the residential SOS rate. The benefit of charging during off-peak hours would be the same as the credit rider program, but there would be an applicable 2 cent per kilowatt hour charge for EV charging during on-peak hours. The main difference is that customers currently under the credit rider program do not currently incur additional charges for net on-peak charging. Staff recommends that the Commission accept for filing PE's tariff revisions reflecting the EV-only time of use rate as modified by staff with an effective date of May 15th, 2023, and that the company be directed to file clean copies of its tariffs. Also, that the Commission should direct PE to provide updates on the EV-only time of use rate in their EV semi-annual reports to the Commission. Additionally, staff has reviewed OPC's comments and agrees with their recommendation of modifying the tariff language such that customers with EVs that have telematic capabilities are eligible to enroll in PE's time of use rider without the installation of a level 2 smart charger. That's all. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Delgado. We'll turn to Office of People's Counsel. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Molly Woods, Assistant People's Counsel for the Office of People's Counsel. OPC reviewed PE's filing in this matter as well as staff comments, and we generally agree with staff's recommendation to approve the company's request to phase out their existing off-peak bill credit program and implement its EV-only time of use rate offering. As mentioned, our office submitted comments solely to recommend one additional modification to the tariff in light of PE's response to staff DR 2-2, in which PE acknowledged that the company's vendor Energy Hub, quote, will be able to provide charging data via EV telematics for Tesla vehicles. OPC understood this to mean that a customer who has an EV with telematic capabilities that enable communication with the company's vendor would not also require a smart charger to participate in the TOU rate offering. Because this exception was not initially noted in the filing or tariff language, which requires that a customer, quote, install a company-qualified smart EV level 2 charger to participate in the TOU program, OPC recommended a modification to the tariff language. Since filing our comments, OPC has been in touch with PE and staff, and we believe that we are all in agreement about a modification to the tariff language that would instead require that a participating customer, quote, install a company-qualified smart electric vehicle level 2 charger or have a company-qualified EV with telematic capabilities that enable communication with PE's vendor. PE has also agreed to list qualifying EVs on its website in the same way it currently lists qualifying L2 smart chargers, and to add reference to this listing in the general section of the tariff. With that, OPC thanks PE and staff for their cooperation and the Commission for your consideration of our comments, and we're available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Woods. I have a question. And thank you for working cooperatively with staff and with the utility in advance of the AM to work out a proposal here. The proposed tariff language that you just quoted is somewhat different than what you filed. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that is based on a request from PE to add the term company qualified at the start of that addition. There are additionally, I think, a few more places in the tariff where just including that or qualified telematically capable EV would also be appropriate, and we've discussed those with PE as well.
Thank you. We'll hear from PE next, but if we do go ahead today and approve these changes, would that require the refiling of red line tariff sheets, or do you think we could do this from the bench? It sounds like there might be some additional housekeeping that you haven't fully reviewed. Is that true?
I think that may be true. I believe we're on the same page with PE, and that filing a new version of the tariff with that language would be sufficient.
So that could be done on a compliance basis if we approve that today?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, let's hear from the utility. Don't go too far, Ms. Woods. Although, if you'd like to have a seat, have a seat. Good morning, Council for Potomac Edison.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Jeffrey Trout, as you said, Counsel for Potomac Edison. First of all, I'd like to point out that both staff and the Office of People's Counsel reached out to us not only prior to the AM, but prior to filing their written comments. And that was very, very helpful. It has enabled us to reach, by this morning, what I believe is a full and fully satisfactory resolution of all the questions and concerns that they raised. We started with what I believe was a very good tariff filing, and staff and OPC have each helped to make it better. And I, for one, very much appreciate their efforts in this regard. Ms. Woods correctly stated, first of all, we agree 100% with the two small changes that staff has recommended, and we will include those in our compliance filing. Secondly, Ms. Woods correctly stated the three changes that would be made as a result of OPC's comments or questions. The first is to indicate that without having to have a Type 2 smart charger, a customer with the appropriate telematics on their vehicle would also be able to participate in the TOU rate. That's why we need the company approved. Right now, the only vehicle we know that can come through our vendor with those telematics are Teslas, but we're going to continue to look for opportunities to expand that. And if the language is modified in the way that Ms. Woods just described to you, and that we intend to reflect in the compliance filing, we will be able to add new vehicles as that capability expands, and we will not need to come to you for tariff modifications in order to do it. The tariff will have in it already all the language that it needs to make that future expansion possible. So, with respect to process, I think you put your finger on exactly how we should proceed, Mr. Chairman. Let's approve the tariff filing today, noting that it should include all of the modifications that have been discussed, and that the company should make a compliance filing that includes all those modifications. And I will undertake to make sure that we show staff and OPC the compliance filing in draft, noting, showing all the modifications before we make the compliance filing, so that all three parties are satisfied that we are capturing exactly the language that has been agreed to in the oral exchanges and in the email exchanges. So that's how I would propose to proceed. I'm happy to try to answer any additional questions that you all might have, but I think this has been an illustration of how the process can work at its best, because everybody reached out and we all interacted.
Thank you, Mr. Kraut. I do want to underscore and emphasize that I appreciate the spirit of cooperatism on this case. Hopefully it carries through to other cases as well. I also just like to recognize, I know that we have 5 utilities in the state with various forms of EV programs underway. Some have public, some have residential, some have MUDs, but I continue to be impressed with PE's pilot. It's not as large as some of its not sister utilities, the Exelon utilities, of course, but it's been impressive in the milestones that it's made to date. I don't have any questions or concerns with respect to this filing. I turn to my colleagues, Commissioner O'Donnell. And Commissioner O'Donnell, I think that is helpful. The hand catches my eye, so I appreciate your using the hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It proves the old adage that an old dog can be taught new tricks. I wanted to ask staff, Mr. Delgado, just to make sure I'm clear. So as I read the buck sheet on this item, and attachment 1 is the modifications originally proposed by staff. Is that the extent of the modifications staff proposes? Just two word changes, the red line word changes there?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And then, so if that's the extent of staff's modifications, staff incorporates the changes just described by the Office of People's Counsel and agreed to by Potomac Edison. Is that also not correct? And to make the total all-in modifications, staff's proposals, original, and OPC's modification as agreed to by the parties.
Yeah, but it's not reflected again in attachment 1. That's just staff's.
And we'll take that up with the compliance filing as the chairman describes. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, Mr. Chairman, make sure I understood the full scope of the modifications.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bubar.
Thank you. And I'd also like to echo my thanks for everybody working cooperatively. It is a best practice, and hopefully we will continue to do it. So thank you. And I'm fully supportive of the proposal as summarized by Mr. Trout. I just have 2 questions. I guess for Mr. Trout, what expectations does the company have in terms of increased customers once you go to the TOU rate?
So, the program was fully the off-bill program was fully subscribed. We had, I believe, a waiting list for it. In fact, so we expect that most or all of the customers currently on the off-bill program will enroll in this, and that we will get additional customers. I am not aware of whether we have a projection as to how many more, but I think it's safe to say that it's going to be measurably more than the 500 customers that we have signed up now.
Yeah, that's great. Then I just have a question I'm curious about. Was there any information provided to you regarding fires as people were charging in their garages?
I have not heard anything. Let me just phone a friend for a minute. Okay, I'm getting head shakes from our 2 subject matter experts that are here today. So no, I would think I would have heard of it as well, because that's kind of a big deal.
Right.
But so no, not yet.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I also wanted to echo the Chairman's congratulations to the company and the parties for working out some of these tariff issues beforehand. That's very heartening to see that happen, and also agree that Potomac Edison has a very impressive program. I did want to know a little more about the billing system, and whether this is going to be addressed as far as allowing people that are net metering or participating in community solar. Is that something that's going to be addressed anytime soon, as far as, again, allowing people with EVs to participate not only in this time of use program, but also to take advantage of these other state policy programs?
So we tried in this filing to keep it simple, and do things that we had tested or were as close as possible to what we had tested with the off-bill program, and that did not involve substantial additional potential expense, IT or systems or otherwise. When we have the conversation about what comes next after the end of the current pilot. The questions that you just raised, Commissioner, are questions that we are going to want to address. Because if we can, at a reasonable cost, we do want to expand the offerings in the way that you proposed. I don't think we can do it today, based on what we know today, and in the time that's left in the current pilot. But I think that that's very much the sort of issue that we want to have on the table for discussion. I believe it's going to be this fall, when we all talk together about what comes next.
Great. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Again, I'm pleased to see this proposal being made today, but I do encourage the company to take a look at, again, ensuring that particularly these folks who have EVs can also look to participate in other, again, to support other state policies. And it may involve also thinking about what the times are. We may want people with solar panels and, participating in solar programs to charge at a different time of day. So, in any case, thank you. I had some hesitation in wanting to enshrine this now in the tariff, but I think based on your answer, I'm pretty much good to go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Trout, what we'll do here is we'll accept subject to a compliance filing, so we don't need to bring this before a future AM. We'll plan to issue a delegated letter based on the consensus proposal that's been worked out by the three parties. Does that sound good?
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that's totally satisfactory to the company.
So I would move that we accept for filing, subject to a compliance filing, the company's tariff revisions reflecting the EV-only time of use as reflective of staff's comments dated March 27, 2003, as well as Office of People's Counsel's comments dated April 3, 2023, as modified and discussed at today's administrative meeting. I also move that we direct the company to file these clean copies of its tariffs with an effective date of May 15, 2023, and direct the company to provide updates on the EV-only time of use rate in their EV semi-annual reports to the Commission. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the administrative agenda is from Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. Its request for Empower program budget shifts and changes in incentive amounts.
Thank you. Good morning to our staff. Mr. Jang.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Michael Jang on behalf of staff. Item number 4 on today's agenda is a request from BGE to reallocate Empower budgets and increase incentive amounts for certain measures. Staff does note that OPC also filed comments on this item on April 3rd. This request is a result of the sunsetting of the company's residential lighting program and is similar to the requests made by Southern Maryland Electric Cooperative, SMECO, and the Potomac Edison Company, PE, which were previously approved by the Commission. The company's request is a two-part request. First, the company plans to shift budget from certain programs to another. Specifically, the company plans to shift $2.5 million from the appliance recycling program to the appliance rebates program. Additionally, the company plans to utilize leftover budget from the residential lighting program to a variety of its other residential programs, which can be seen in Table 2 of staff's comments. BGE has indicated to staff that the budgets of each program will still be sufficient after the proposed budget shifts. The company's second request is to increase incentive amounts for certain measures. The specific amounts and measures the company is requesting an incentive increase can be found in Table 1 of staff's comments. The proposed up to incentive amounts are consistent with the amounts approved by both SMECO and PE. Additionally, BGE is requesting to increase incentives for its appliance recycling program by additional $25 to attract greater participation. Staff recommends that the Commission approve the reallocation request and increase in incentive amounts. Thank you, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jang. Good morning to the Office of People's Counsel.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Nicole Zeichner on behalf of the Maryland Office of People's Counsel. OPC does support this request from BGE. We initially had two concerns which were similar to the concerns that we raised approximately a month ago with Potomac Edison's proposal. We have since discussed these matters with BGE, and we are satisfied that this request would be appropriate and to the benefit of Maryland ratepayers. Briefly, the first concern is that the equipment subject to increased incentives would be compliant with the January 1st, 2023 updated DOE requirements regarding SEER levels versus SEER 2 levels. We spoke with Eric Ryabko from BGE. He provided OPC with an updated table, since the table in BGE's comments references SEER levels and references upcoming DOE requirements, when in fact it was filed after those January 1st requirements took effect. And Mr. Ryabko provided OPC with an updated table and explained that after a June sell-through date for the SEER-rated equipment, everything will be compliant with the new DOE standards, the updated SEER 2 standards. So we are satisfied with this. Our second concern was that any equipment subject to increased incentives be eligible under the Inflation Reduction Act for rebates and incentives. And Mr. Ryabko has confirmed that BGE has been working with distributors and HVAC contractors to ensure that the program is aligned with the IRA and will make adjustments as they learn more about the IRA. So based on these representations and based on the additional information provided by BGE, we do recommend that the Commission accept this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eichner. Finally, we'll turn to counsel for BGE.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joel Michelle on behalf of BGE. With me is Eric Rupko, our Manager of Energy Efficiency Programs. I first want to echo the sentiments of Mr. Trout in thanking both staff and OPC for their collaboration in reaching out to us before filing their respective comments. We have no presentation with respect to this filing, but we are available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Michel, and again, thank you for the parties for ironing out any issues prior to today's meeting. I do not have any questions, my colleagues. Seeing none, I would move that we approve the reallocation request and increase in the various incentive amounts. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the administrative agenda is from Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. Its request to approve the company's proposed increase to its 2021 to 2023 Empower Maryland Rewards program budget.
Good morning again, Chairman Commissioners. Michael Jang on behalf of staff. Item number 5 is a request from BGE to increase the budget of its Empower Connected Rewards program. Staff does note that OPC also filed comments for this item on April 3rd. This request is made as a result of the company exceeding its forecasted number of devices enrolled in 2023 for its Connected Rewards program. The company is requesting an increase in its Connected Rewards program budget by $3.4 million. BGE has estimated that this budget increase would result in an approximate impact on the surcharge by additional 2 cents per month for the typical residential customer who uses 831 kilowatt hours a month. Staff would like to clarify that this impact on the surcharge would not take effect until the company's surcharges are recalculated at the end of the year, and that the company is not requesting an increase in the Empower surcharge at this time. Staff notes that the company's Peak Rewards program, which was the company's previous residential demand response program that no longer accepts new customers, has leftover budget from 2022. Staff proposes in its comments that BGE utilize its outstanding operations and maintenance budget from its Peak Rewards program to satisfy the company's request for additional funding of the company's Connected Rewards program for both the outside services and evaluation, measurement, and verification budget increase request. Staff also recommends that the company utilize its outstanding customer incentive budget from the 2021 to 2023 program cycle from the Peak Rewards program to satisfy the company's request for an increase in customer incentives for the Connected Rewards program. In the case where leftover customer incentive budget from the Peak Rewards program does not fully satisfy the company's increased budget request for the Connected Rewards program, Staff would support using leftover operations and maintenance budget from the Peak Rewards program to cover any shortfall. Staff believes that shifting budgets in this scenario is preferable to a budget increase. The company has indicated to staff through data response that they would be supportive of utilizing leftover Peak Rewards budget if staff proposed it as a solution. Staff recommends the Commission direct the company to shift leftover budget from the Peak Rewards program to the Connected Rewards program to fulfill the company's request for additional funding of the Connected Rewards program for 2023 as described in staff's comments. Thank you, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jang. We'll turn to Office of People's Counsel.
And good morning again, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Nicole Zeichner on behalf of the Maryland Office of People's Counsel. OPC supports staff proposal. We think it's a good solution to avoid a surcharge increase, and it's our understanding that BGE also supports this. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Michel.
Morning again, Commissioners. Joel Michelle on behalf of BGE. As represented by OPC and Mr. Jang of staff, the company does accept the alternative proposal by staff.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions? Commissioner Bubar.
Thank you, and thank you again for working together. I just have a clarifying question. So will the terms be the same as under the Peak Rewards program? In other words, it will be the thermostat will be changed based on air conditioning control in the summer and water heater control in the winter?
Yes, that is my understanding. The only substantive difference between the Connected Rewards program and the Peak Rewards program is the ownership of the actual device. With the Peak Rewards program, the company actually owns and installs the device, whereas the Connected Rewards program, the customer obtains the device themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no additional questions, with respect to item number 5, I would move that we direct the company to shift leftover budget from the Peak Rewards program to the Connected Rewards program to fulfill the company's request for additional funding of the Connected Rewards program for 2023, as described in staff's comments dated March 29, 2023. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, the final item on today's administrative agenda is from Neighborhood Sun Benefit Corporation and Enterprise Community Development Corporation. The request to qualify certain properties of the Enterprise Community Development Corporation as a low or moderate income subscriber in the Maryland Community Solar Pilot Program.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and
Thank
Commissioners.
you, Ms. Garofalo. Do we have a representative from Neighborhood Sun with us today? Good morning, Ms. Garofalo. Perhaps you could answer that question.
I did write to Neighborhood Sun and I asked them two questions. I asked them if they would be willing to submit something formal with regard to withdrawing 2 of the 3 applications they'd applied for. They did do that. I'll let whether or not it was formal be something that you would determine.
Well,
But
Ms.
I
Garofalo.
did not hear from them about whether they would be attending. I did ask them if they would be attending.
Okay, thank you. I interrupted you as you were about to make your appearance, so why don't you make your appearance?
Okay. Annette Garofalo on behalf of Commission staff.
Thank you. I understand that we had an an ex parte communication yesterday from Mr. Gary Skolnick, Chief Executive Officer. He sent an email to the Executive Secretary. The subject line was, and I'm going to read this into the record, the subject line was withdrawal of LMI application, and the entirety of the email stated, Mr. Johnston, I just wanted to clarify that while we are asking for LMI certification for Taney Village in the Potomac Edison territory, we are no longer asking for LMI certification for Essex House and Park Montgomery in the Pepco territory. All of these are with Enterprise. And it was signed by Gary Skolnick, who is not here today. So I'm trying to make heads or tails of the withdrawal of the LMI application. And it sounds like, based on this email, he's asking for certification for Taney Village only, Is that your understanding, or is this as clear as mud?
No, it is my understanding. In his February 14th filing, he asked for certification for 3 facilities, all with under the Enterprise Community Development Corporation logo. We did some discovery. He responded for 1 facility, but not the other 2, and there is a footnote, I believe, in my comments to the effect that he's withdrawn them, because he let me know that by email, and that's when I asked him if he would let the commission know. I had in mind something more formal, that you
And
put
so
a
he didn't-
mail-log on.
He did not let the commission know. Is that right?
He did not make another filing. He as you said, let the executive secretary know.
And you stated we don't know why he's not here today.
Well, no, although since this is a grant, he may have felt it wasn't necessary, but I have no information from him.
Okay. As a reminder to PSC practitioners, unless you're on the consent agenda, you should show up to the hearing room. This is a grant only on the one project, and the commission staff is supportive of that. So we will proceed in absentia of the petitioner here. Do my colleagues have any questions? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could staff kind of give a history of the moving around of the parts with these neighborhood solar projects? It seems like we've had a series of filings over the last couple years that move pieces and parts of these projects around, and I'm not sure I got a good grip on what's going on here, and the filings were light, to be honest with you. So, could you help me out with that?
Well, I'll do my best, Your Honor. So, Neighborhood Sun Benefit Corporation would like to provide electricity through its community solar project to Enterprise Community Development Corporation. There are 3 facilities that have the name Taney Town and something after that. We asked him to give us some information that would show that the residents of the Taney Towns were low or moderate income, and he gave us that for 1, which is Taney Town Village, and so that is completely either low income or moderate income, as defined in COMAR. But the other 2 he withdrew. I don't know any more than that. He withdrew them. I don't know whether they looked and they did not qualify, or whether they ran out of time to look.
So, Ms. Garofalo, I gather that much for the instant filing. I'm talking about the history of these projects with this company, and seems to be a lot of shells moving around here, and I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, I would
Yeah.
say if you're just talking about Neighborhood Benefit Corporation, my personal impression is that they have been a pretty straight up actor. They have made contact with parts that have with either facilities of various sorts that rent to low income customers or moderate income customers. These are not residential. These are not residential customers in terms of how they receive their income, but they do qualify under COMAR, and we think he's been very cooperative in giving us the information that we need. But
Yeah,
that may not
I'm
be
trying
quite
to
what
get-
you're asking.
Sorry.
Perhaps that's not quite an answer to the question you were asking.
I'm trying to get a handle on these types of projects. This seems like a special kind of genre of projects under the CSEGS program that move in of LMI, move out of LMI, are ready or not ready, request reclassification. And it's not just this instant filing. It seems to be a history of this. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, why. And it's about as clear as mud to me as to why.
So under Comar, if you are a low-income customer, which means you participate in an EUSP or a comparable program with comparable requirements for income, or you are a moderate income customer, which means the household income is
Ms. Garofalo, can I stop you there? I appreciate the
okay.
explanation of the intent of the program. I'm talking about the application of the program, where these projects are moving in and out. There's decisions being made that I don't understand. They just seem to be, kind of, we went in, we went out, rubber stamp, move along, next. I'm trying to find out why.
So I'm not aware of any that have moved out, but once you have qualified a facility as LMI, it can retain that under the regulations. It can retain that status, even if someone wins the lottery or moves out, and someone who does not qualify moves into that apartment. Or
have we denied as a commission any similar filings such as this?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look. We might have denied one that didn't qualify. I honestly don't know.
It just seems to me like we have, and these come in at such an infrequent rate. It's just infrequent enough not to let your memory dwell too long on what's going on here. It almost feels like a less frequent set of operational deadline waiver proposals to me, and I'm trying to figure out what it is, what's going on here. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. This stuff is a bit of a mystery right here to me. And these may be small projects, but I'm trying to figure out who in this space is doing what.
So, of course, as you're aware, the commission grants authority for a CSEG project based on three types of type of resident, and one of those is low income. So if you have applied for a low income capacity and you've received that, then you have to fill that capacity with low income customers.
Obviously, it would be helpful if the petitioner was here today to answer some of those questions. He is not. Neighborhood Sun did not send a representative today. I am supportive, based on staff's recommendation, of the grant. I'll turn to my colleague, Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to Ms. Garofalo. I'm supportive as well. I just had a couple of clarification questions. In the staff filing, it referenced a copy of a data request which was sent to Neighborhood Sun and claimed that it was attached. I did not see it.
I did not attach it, but I do have it right
okay.
here.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I had a couple questions on it, and I'm hoping they're on there answered. I suspect they would be. The data request references that 93% of the households were below the federal poverty level. What did the company, Neighborhood Sun, what did they present to support that?
Well, we do take them at their word.
Okay.
So they presented a breakdown of residents based on 2022 income and for house, and they had of 128 households, which is what's in this particular case. They had 119 or 93% were under the 175% of the poverty level, and 9 households or 7% were under 80% of the Maryland median income for 2021. I think that is the most recent median income for the state, which is available.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess, thank you, Ms. Garofalo. Mr. Chairman, if I could I would just ask that the staff include the attachment so we could have it as part of the record.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll make that is that attachment number 2?
It's. I think I only referenced one attachment.
Just one. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll make that. We'll include that as a part of the record. Thank you. Seeing no additional questions, Ms. Garofalo, if I can impress upon you to let Mr. Skutnik know if there are additional filings, he should be present based on the questions we had today. I would move that we grant the company's request to qualify its Taney Village facility as a low and moderate income subscriber for the purposes of the community solar program. The vote begins with Commissioner Bubar.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to vote no, and I'm going to explain my vote. My no vote is based on in my opinion, the paucity of information regarding this class of CSEGs categories and this dearth of information allows me unsatisfied with regard to trying to figure it out and getting my questions answered, and that's exacerbated by the no-show of the filer, the interested party. So for all those reasons, I'm going to register a no vote just to say, hey, if anybody thinks we rubber stamp stuff here, we don't.
Thank you. Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
By a vote of 4-1, noting Commissioner O'Donnell's dissent, the motion carries. Before we conclude today's administrative meeting, for the purposes of those waiting for case number 9647, which is a probable cause hearing, that hearing will begin at 11:03 a.m. this morning. We are adjourned.